can this be a platform for promoting peace and reconciliation in our conflict-ridden region? Expectations and suggestions. So we have some very distinguished panelists here. And I will just mention their names, and they can just wave. And then I will introduce them before they speak. I will introduce them more in detail. Mr. Thomas McDavid, Chairman of Washington Times, USA. Her Excellency Dr. May Chidiak, Minister of Administration for Lebanon. Professor Predrag Vujovic, Founder and President of Public Relations Business School, Serbia. And Lutfi Dervishi is a host of political talk show The Ballet in public television. He's a he's a host of the talk show and many other things. So without further ado, we will start with the panelists. Mr. Thomas McDavid, Chairman of the Washington Times in USA. He has served in a number of leadership roles since joining the Times in 1994, including Business Director of the Washington Times National Weekly, General Manager of the Washington Times Magazine Division, and Marketing Director, Vice President, and President and CEO. Former Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications of the very distinguished organization called Point of Light Foundation, which was founded by President George W. Bush. So Mr. McDavid will move to the PowerPoint. He will give his presentation right now. Let's give a big hand to Dominic.
Thank you very much, Peter, for that introduction. And thank all of you for attending this program. We didn't know how many were going to attend, and it's about 3 times more than we expected, so we should have planned better. Thank you, Peter and Marilda, for your leadership here, and also to all of the journalists that are present. I know all of you guys are busy and you got all kinds of things to cover. So to come to a panel like this is notable and much appreciated. My purpose today, and I've got 9.5 minutes left, is to introduce a very important new initiative that a year from now is going to really shake the world, in my professional and personal opinion. We're going to be launching what's going to be called the International Media Association for Peace. And this is a work in progress. It will be launched in February of 2020 at the World Summit in Seoul. And some of you, I'm sure, will attend that. We are very serious about building a geopolitical grand strategy to affect the world for the sake of peace, as you heard yesterday from Mother Moon and from so many other distinguished people. And it's an effort that's been going on for decades. Having been involved for over 45 years myself, I see an amazing growth, amazing potential to solve the most critical problems on Earth for real. And it can't be done by human hands or brains alone. That's kind of a fundamental assumption. It's a fundamental statement of truth that without God's help, the human race can't move forward. With God's help, and by putting our own muscle and brains and efforts together, we can change the world. It's happened in the past millennia, and it can happen now. The media is a critical area of work, and the media has many issues and problems, as you know well. I'm not going to detail those. I have another presentation that goes into the various polls and assessments that have been done in terms of the lack of trust, the fake news phenomenon, the politicization and polarization in the news. A critical problem is celebrity news, where journalists become more important than the calling, the sacred calling to deliver the truth to their readers. And so, like the Cold War era, when Reverend Moon and Mrs. Moon launched the World Media Association, we're going to revive that in a new way. And we'll take full advantage of the innovation and technology available in the world today. And I see it as an awesome opportunity. And every region of the world can contribute. So having said that, I invite all of you, whether you're here for the first time or you're a veteran associate of ours, to please consider what you can contribute to help form a new media culture that's focused on the biggest purpose of all, the biggest calling of all, is to change the world for the sake of peace in its myriad different dimensions, based upon these core pillars of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values. At the heart of the media work that Reverend and Mrs. Moon have done is the Washington Times. It's just beyond an honor for me to still be with the company for now 26 years. And the Washington Times has become known in America as a lighthouse. I'm going to show you a little bit of what we've been doing and then come to a conclusion about what we're going to ask of you to participate. Let me continue here. I'm going to read, this is a quote from a speech that Reverend Moon gave related to the media, and I'm just going to draw your attention to the last line. He's talking about the mission of the media as the conscience of society. And there's plenty of content there. This is from the Washington Times, our strategic plan, which was developed about a decade ago. And I want to draw your attention to the core values of the Washington Times. And that is the guiding principles of faith, family, freedom, service, and citizenship. We could spend a whole day talking about those principles, but they guide the company and they are embedded in kind of the DNA of the culture of the Times. It's a very important description of the motivation of the company. And then, in Washington, thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. And I don't have a laptop here, so forgive me for having to turn back here. The basic point is the Times is read by all the power elites in Washington, the embassy, the diplomatic community, the White House, the Pentagon, all of Congress. Every member of the House of Representatives and the Senate gets a dozen copies of the Times every day. They can't miss it. Both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, read the Times because of its trustworthiness. In addition, the Times was recently declared among the top 50 media companies in America. There was a major survey done last fall in October of 2018. And it wanted to evaluate the trustworthiness of major media given the fake news environment. America right now is very polarized. It's very, very intense. I've never seen it like this. In the midst of this turbulence, how do people think about media? And the number one newspaper and news media company that came out as the number one trustworthy company was the Wall Street Journal, which is not surprising. Second, third, and fourth were the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the USA Today. And throughout the entire nation of the United States of America, the Washington Times came out as number 5 among all the media. Because I know what it's taken over now 36 years to build that reputation. So if you don't read the Times from today, I would like to ask you to take a look at it, WashingtonTimes.com. In English, can you repeat that? WashingtonTimes.com. WashingtonTimes.com. And it's an excellent source of news and opinion that you can trust. The power reach of the Times is all over. I don't need to go into detail about that. And I want to just give you one example. Whether you feel good, neutral, or bad about Donald Trump as the President of the United States, He was driving on Air Force One. Fox News carried this as a video. And we noticed something. He's got his arm on a pile of newspapers. So we kind of zeroed in. I was interested in his cufflinks, but you'll notice that's the Washington Times. We did not manufacture this. And our opinion editor, Charlie Hurd, it's not Photoshopped. It's not Photoshopped. It's right off of Fox News and CNN, both. So anyway, it has influence. I was at the White House. The gentleman in the middle is President Trump's chief liaison to the legislature. Paul Teller used to work for us. He's a great guy, a PhD in international relations. And he pointed out when we were in the office there on the credenza that the Washington Times was right there. So please understand the brand, the content is highly influential, and we take that very seriously. Our media products are plentiful. I recommend you look at the new digital edition, which is going all over the world now, and you can get full access to all of our content. And now I have 2 minutes to go. Advertising solutions, we have all of that. We have all kinds of strategic communications efforts, special sections on all kinds of different areas, and I'm keenly interested in doing a special section on the Balkan region. I've learned so much just in the last 36 hours, but I think with your help, we can tell the story of this region to the American public and to the world in a way that's suitable and professional and hard-hitting. So that's something to think about. We do all kinds of events, including media conferences. This one we did in Korea to the DMZ, and we've met many of the Korean officials. This is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, etc., and Ambassador Harry Harris. We do fact-finding trips. We've done 10 of them in the last year with top people from the congressional and intelligence community. I'm going to finish. I could have taken too long already on the times, but these are members of Congress. These are the fact-finding trips we've done just even until several weeks ago in Nagoya, Japan, where Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, and 2 key members of the House of Representatives met with leading members of the Japanese Diet and leading members of the Korean National Assembly, because there is such a deep tension between Japan and Korea. And our movement, NGO-wise and officially with the Washington Times, is bringing these things together. That's why the launching of IMAP is so important. International Media Association for Peace. It will be a nonprofit association that will cover the entire world. And we would like to form a working group, even from people in this room. This is one of 7 regions in the world. And we look to have a conference in Seoul with about 500 media professionals. Now, for those of you in the business, in the media, whether you're on the publishing side or the content side, whether it's print, digital, radio, broadcast, internet, whatever, social media, imagine a global network of media professionals like yourself that are multi-sector, that cover literally 190 countries in the world, that share a common value perspective, driving towards peace, anchored in the family, built around these core values. I believe, having an interest in innovation and design strategy, that there is a time coming soon when we can create a new tipping point, a critical mass of media professionals who understand the importance of the big questions, who can look at someone like Dr. Hak Jahan Moon and see what other people don't see, hear what other people don't hear, and report Pulitzer Prize quality content about the most innovative, exciting news on the planet, which is like the time of Jesus. That's what's going on. And media professionals can be the leading philosopher, communicators that change the behavior of the world and of leaders. And that's why we're so committed to making this happen with your help. Thank you so much for being here and for giving me a few minutes to share. God bless you.
Isn't that great? So thank you, Tom. Let's give give another big hand. By the way, regarding media press freedom index, the United States is on a scale of 180, number 48. So there are problems there, it looks like. Now, we are going to have another presentation by a very special lady. She's a professor, she's a journalist, and what a journalist. She is from Lebanon, Middle East, and which is on media freedom index 101. So she is Her Excellency Dr. May Gidiak is Minister of Administrative Reform in Lebanon. For more than 25 years as a journalist, May Gidiak fought for the freedom of the Lebanese people when few dared to speak up against the prevailing state tyranny, and that through her show Narcon Said from 1998 until 2005. 2005 it stopped. We'll soon find out why. 6 months after the assassination of the former Prime Minister Rafik Hariri in 2005, you remember he was assassinated. She was attacked by a car bomb, causing her to lose her left leg and arm. And now she's standing here. Is this incredible? We really appreciate her that she came here all the way. So after 10 months of numerous surgeries and rehabilitation, she returned to the TV screen in a primetime political talk show called Be Ko Yura. Right? It's your job. So, with audacity. She has also continued her teaching career as professor of radio and TV at Notre Dame University until this present. Throughout her career, Dr. Gidiak has received numerous international awards and prizes. In January 2019, Her Excellency Dr. May Gidiak was designated Minister of State for Administrative Reform in the government of Her Excellency, His Excellency, the President of the Council of Ministers, Mr. Saad Hariri. Let's welcome Mrs. Gidiak.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, allow me to thank UPF for inviting me to take part in this peace summit and discuss how the world is responding to conflict, adapting to the tides of change, and harnessing an environment for peace and prosperity. Today we have only to look around us to see how media is sharpening the 21st century. We are witnessing the burgeoning of freedom around the world. Each and every one of us can share thoughts, opinions, and stories for the whole world to listen. Social media has given us the space, time, and patience to not only shape history, but also our future. Indeed, media is rightfully described as the sword arm of democracy and the builder of community, two pillars of purpose, freedom, and liberty. As George Orwell once said, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. Reporters Without Borders and Press Freedom House are correct to state that freedom of the press is deteriorating, especially in the most unexpected regions, such as Europe and the United States, with authoritarianism becoming more popular with each passing election. However, I have always been a rational optimist. I see a world that is so keen on moving forward despite the despotic change of authoritarianism, tyranny, and ideology. Where others see history repeating itself in many corners of the world, I see possibility coming nearer in clocked stages. As the heroic revolutionary Martin Luther King once said, human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. Coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. No words could be truer and timeless, for I see them manifesting in the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, as you just heard, 14 years ago, I paid a high price myself for exposing the truth when many wanted it to be hidden in the dirt. In 2005, after the assassination of Prime Minister Rafik Hariri, I was among journalists and activists who were targeted during Lebanon 2005 Syrian revolution for speaking out against the Syrian regime and its 30-year brutal occupation of Lebanon. The regime, with the help of its local allies, placed a bomb under my car and left me without my left arm and left leg. I suffered through 40 surgeries, third-degree burns, and shrapnel under my skin. To this day, I still receive thousands of insults and death threats on social media and my email account for voicing my opinions. As a result of the attempt on my life and the media environment in my country, I founded the Meshida Foundation, an organization that is dedicated to promoting freedom of the press and expression. Every year, I award journalists from all around the world for their audacious coverage of highly significant events. I also became, as you just heard, Minister of State for Administrative Reform and work on strengthening communication in the public administration and with the public. I am proud to say that I have fought hard and continue to do so to this day, because freedom never dies, and it will never die in me. I am honored to be in front of you this morning to discuss the topic that is dear to my heart, freedom of expression and media in the 21st century. I will be making a tour of the world, starting with my country. In my country, Lebanon, we are witnessing nowadays an unexpected turn of events. We were always told sectarianism is deeply rooted in our culture, as the cedars are to our mountains. And so we carried on with our confessional political system that ultimately turned into a faceless behemoth of clientelism, nepotism, and rampant corruption. Today marks the 10th days of protest, and I confessed that I thought non-violent demonstrations could only occur in books, because my generation saw nothing but blood, shrapnel, and trenches. Almost 2 million people have been gathering every other day in the streets of Beirut, Byblos, Tripoli, as well as North and South Lebanon. The media coverage has been free and fair, with numerous TV stations giving people a platform to speak their minds freely, from the north to the south, even in the most divisive and dangerous areas. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of new age technology. Hashtags, humorous memes, emotional campaigns, human chains extending from the south to the north of Lebanon, cell phones, flashlights waving in Tripoli's famous square to revolutionary anthems. Everyone is agate at how the traditional and digital media have united numerous sects into a united people under the Lebanese flag. For the first time, citizens are not afraid to voice their opinions against the ruling elite, especially Hezbollah, a Lebanese paramilitary organization that pledges allegiance to the Iranian Ayatollah Khomeini regime and surpasses continents and holds weapons capable of destroying the country. Secretary General of Hezbollah Hassan Nasrallah spoke twice, more than the President and the Prime Minister, an obvious endeavor to show that he is in control of government. Lebanese youth posted pictures denying his accusations of being funded by embassies, claiming that they are not their parents and that they will not fall for the civil war rhetoric despite warnings. They take photographs, create videos, and post what they are coming across to share in the experience of revolution. a behavior that ultimately transformed into community. However, some always oppose change and do not listen to those who are expressing their pain. Currently, 2 journalists from NTV News Channel were assaulted while covering a protest on the ground and their cameras were destroyed. Intruders sent by the governing authorities wearing black shirts were filmed threatening TV stations for their ongoing coverage. Also, the country's national news agency director, Lor Sleiman, was dismissed and replaced by one employee close to the ruling party for covering the protest. She last stated, "If my dismissal is my punishment because I conveyed the voice of the people, I am proud of it." In fact, not too long ago, when I was a minister, and I'm still a minister till now, because the government didn't resign yet, I defended the Lebanese newspaper Nida al-Watan against opponents in government who sued them with a criminal defamation lawsuit. At the table of the Council of Ministers, I faced the other ministers and the President of the Republic and loudly stated the famous words of the Lebanese singer Fayrouz, loosely translated into "prisons cannot fit everyone. ما في حبوس تساع كل الناس." Going struggle against corruption. Unemployment and disillusionment with system in place. Due to the widespread discontent, Iraq has blocked popular social media networks, including Facebook and Twitter. As protests against government corruption rages on, no longer afraid of repercussions, the movement shows no signs of stopping, with more deaths looming. Just yesterday, on October 26, 2019, Muqtada Sadr, the Shiite Muslim cleric whose coalition won the largest number of seats in last year's parliamentary elections in Iraq, has called on the government to resign and to listen to citizen demands. Otherwise, he believes that the country will descend into civil war. Since the movement began in Basra in July 2018, journalists have been threatened, assaulted, detained, and prevented from covering the protest by security forces and Iran-backed militias. Both protests in Lebanon and Iraq are not particularly a harbinger of good news for Iran and their allies, as it means that they are losing control of their authority on civilians, not to mention their own. Protests have been rampant in Iran for a year now due to oppression and worsening living conditions, especially amid the US sanctions. Not to mention that in April 2019, the government banned the popular messaging app Telegram, which was used by 40 million Iranians. All 3 situations share one thing in common: desire for community. All 3 political systems share one fear: unity through community. In Syria, the regime unleashes its imagination in implementing repressive measures. Being a target of this regime of Bashar al-Assad myself, I'm deeply aware that he is torturing, kidnapping, and provoking disappearances of ordinary people, of civilians, and of journalists. Not to mention that the recent Turkish attacks on northern Syria have made it immensely difficult for journalists to do their job. In the afternoon of October 13, a Turkish airstrike hit a civilian convoy carrying local and foreign journalists near the Syrian town of Ras Al Ain. The blast killed 15 civilians, including 2 journalists. In Syria, no one is spared, no journalists, no women, no children. Saudi Arabia might not be going through a civil war, but it is not doing better in the index of press freedom. The outrageous murder of Saudi Arabian journalist Jamal Khashoggi continues to send shockwave around the world. Moving to the rest of the world, the fear machine is working at its full potential. Even in Europe, with only 24% of the countries and regions started being in a good or satisfactory situation, standards have deteriorated and freedom of expression is no longer at the forefront of sacred values as it has been historically. The decline in press freedom in Europe has gone hand in hand with an erosion of the region's institutions by increasingly authoritarian government. 3 journalists were just recently killed in Malta, Slovakia, and Bulgaria. In the Netherlands, formerly ranked at the top for press freedom, 2 journalists covering criminal organizations now need full-time police protection after being targeted for attempted murder. The same could be said in the United States. The relatively conservative Fox News channel's chief political anchor, Brett Baer, said a few days ago that President Trump's attack on the media are a problem. His consistent use of Twitter to champ down on his critique has only made the current impeachment inquiry more urgent to his opponents, irrespective of domestic and foreign policy. It's worth mentioning that despite it all, I look at the glass half full, since, as Freedom House also stated, experience has shown that press freedom can rebound quickly from lengthy stints of repression when given the opportunity. The basic desire for democratic liberty, including access to honest and fact-based journalism, can never be extinguished. As the German philosopher Hannah Arendt shrewdly pointed out, solely through political action and community life we can experience power in its most positive meaning, that is the capacity to leave a mark, although unpredictable in history. Every individual life to be worthwhile must be narrated, like a story that gets a sense only when told by one to another. Therefore, it cannot be solipsistic. It must burgeon in a collective surrounding, comparing itself with the one of the other members of the community. In conclusion, today's digital age has the ability to influence community building in different concerns of the world through the power of stories and multimedia. Political systems have become more rigid for many reasons, primarily due to globalization and internalization of community realities that forces of our past cannot seem to release. States that are denying the machination of the future will ultimately result in accidents of history that can radically transform the system. Ultimately, humans seek to pursuit of happiness through community and purpose with media as its powerful catalyst. Thank you all.
Amazing lady. What an amazing story. Let's give her one more big hand. I'm really glad to have her here with us. And, I hope we will hear more from her later. So, our next presentation will be given by Professor Predrag Vujovic, founder and president Public Relations Business School in Serbia. Professor Vujovic, actually we are good friends since many years, is a leading expert in communications in the ex-Yugoslavia region. He holds degrees in marketing, journalism and communications and a PhD in public relations. So I know that journalists do not always propagate that they are into public relations, but anyway, there are close links, especially when journalists lose their job, they move into public relations. Do you know that? Okay. So public relations is very important. And specialized in Italy and the Netherlands, he ran large PR projects such as the Winter Olympic Games, as well as the communication and PR projects for several governments and leading international and domestic companies and media. For the last 3 years, he has been the EU key communications expert in Serbia. As you know, Serbia wants to join the EU. We hope this will work out. He lectures at the universities of Belgrade, Podgorica, Zagreb, Sarajevo, and Milan. Founder and president of the Public Relations Business School, with more than 2,500 PR specialists. He won 2 highly recognized Golden World Awards for excellence from the International Public Relations Association. His campaign for traffic safety has proclaimed as was proclaimed as the best non-profit campaign in Serbia from 2008 to 2017. Let's welcome Professor Predrag Vujović. Serbia ranks 90 on the Press Freedom Index.
Thank you, Peter. Thank Universal Peace Federation for inviting me to speak at such a significant conference. And on this session, media in the 21st century with its challenges and opportunities. When I received the call from UPF, I wrote the paper. I analyzed the media in Serbia and in the Balkan region. But yesterday I decided to change it into a speech. After the Congress speeches in the Congress, I decided to give more further thoughts on the communication, not to speak just about the media situation, not to analyze the challenges, but to give some solutions. If you agree, I would like also to have some discussion with you on these issues. But firstly, let me summarize this analysis I made. The things has changed a lot in the media. You know that firstly they were just normal, let's say, mass media, news agencies, dailies, periodicals, television, radio. Now we have internet, online media and social media that has a huge impact on public opinion. And speaking about the media usage and habits, we divide generations in, let's say, 4 categories. Baby boomers, 50 years plus, I belong to them. X generation, very often MTV generation, that speaks a lot about their media preferences. Millennials, which are up to 25 years and 35 years old. Very often, and new generation, Z generation, from 4 already using media, can you imagine, till 25 years. Millennials and Z generations, according to researchers, are not using mass media, or they don't have any influence, they are not influenced by the mass media. Third change in the media is the content. As the process that comes from the West, most media tend to be tablets now. I'll try to explain this situation in Serbia, since I know Serbia a little better than the other countries. Fourthly, generally ethical and professional standards point of view, as said in Serbia, there are 10 days in Serbia, and if Mr. Vujović allows me, I would say just one media, just one daily is follows professional standards, and it's not political, it's daily lives. Where the professional journalism is above any influences. Accordingly, if we are analyzing media from their independence and media freedom point of view, they are just in Serbia one daily or even none among 10 Serbian dailies that is completely free from any influence. Why is it so? Because of the huge impact of the commercialization of the media and because of the influence of the corporations, advertising. In other media, television, radio, the situation is even worse. The similar media situations are in the countries in the region, the Balkans and the Southeast Europe. To summarize, the situation in media has never been like this before. There is less and less free media, independent media. The media are very dependent on the opinions of those that have powers, the ruling political parties and corporations. And let us use some words just to represent the current challenges, I would say, or problems that are media facing: tabloidization, fake news, the disrespect of human rights, censorship, the commercialization of journalism, and lack of media freedom. This is the situation in media, and what to do, how to gain their attention, how to get their cooperation. Somebody would say it's mission impossible, but it's not. There is a communication science, there is public relations, as Peter said, and there is the way how to deal with these challenges. Yesterday, Thomas Walsh said at the Congress Hall that there is a need for the efficient communication strategy. And there it is. There is the need. There is simple formula in the communication for the success in communication. I equals I, which means ideally is that image is equal to your identity. It is ideal that the public see you as you are, that they know you, understand you, appreciate you, and believe you. These are the main communication goals: information, understanding, and credibility. From the communication point of view, Universal Peace Federation has the main challenge to execute this formula. Not to elaborate it, since we don't have much time, but I'll give you some thoughts about that. Speaking about the UPF identity, what are the UPF potentials? Nothing else but the good principles, core values such as family values, character education, and others should be, which are also the global, I'm sure you agree, human issues. I'm sure that there are enough potentials and elements to produce efficient communication strategy based on these good principles. Beside those, character education, family values, healthy society, and others, all these are huge potentials to develop efficient communication strategy. These are also the media issues, such as and others, such as living in the sake of others philosophy in developing the local community relations. To put it on the let's say, bottom of high philosophical thoughts that the UPF has. Everlasting peace, of course, intercultural and multiculturalism, promoting differences between cultures, nations, states, religions, races. These are core values of the Universal Peace Federation. These principles should unite other stakeholders for the partnership in promoting these values, promoting difference and appreciation, even cherishing dialogue. And what are the steps for the efficient communication? As said before, to know your audience and to understand them, to understand your potentials, and build stronger, even stronger identity, knowing your potentials, knowing your values, produce communication strategy, organize efficient communication model and activities, define communication procedures, because believe me, it's like an engineering process. Everything should be guided through standards and procedures. Cooperate with stakeholders, guide stakeholders, media, public, with proactive communication management. Of course, neutralize through proactive management communications negative attitudes. These are the steps. And in the end, to conclude, as the communication expert, the communication scientist, I'm glad that we have the same principles. All the principles that UPF has are the communication principles. Philosophy, living in the sake of others, is our philosophy of communication. Empathy is the ability needed for the efficient communication. Empathy is understanding and appreciating the feelings, attitudes, habits of the others. It's needed, it's vital for the efficient communication. And I would say that UPF is the communication by itself. UPF is the bridge of different religions, culture, nations, habits, political programs. So I would say UPF is communication between the man and the values and futures. Living in the sake of others should be the main PR strategy, trying to find the best possible way, gathering all stakeholders to become partners in promoting basic human principles. I'm sure that UPF has all elements to produce efficient communication strategy based on good principles. Even three blessings: to live in the harmony, mind and body, for the human development, living in the harmony with the family for the family development, and living in the harmony with nature and environment. These are the main principles for everybody, for families, for companies, organizations, for societies, for states. And I've finished with one suggestion I gave to some politicians a month ago. If you don't mind, it's another 10 seconds. At one of the sessions, consultancy we have with the politicians, they asked me, they said to me, we have political argument on the television very soon, what should we do to win? I said, try to find what unites you with the political opponents, not what divides you. And communicate that, and you will see, you will be the winner of the game. The people, everybody will appreciate it, the public will love it. Thank you.
That's some good advice. A very good note to finish this talk. And yeah, we appreciate PR also. Our next speaker is from here, from Tirana. He's very famous here. This is his home turf here. So Albania has the ranking 82 in the press index, press freedom index. So still there's a lot to do here in this regard. But this gentleman is fighting for conveying the truth. His name is Lutfi Daviji. He's a host of a political talk show in public television. Lutfi is a lecturer at the University of Tirana, teaching investigative journalism to master students at the journalism department and trainer to Albanian Media Institute. He's very known for debunking fake news in social media in Albania. Very good. He has been working previously as a news director to the public television and Vision Plus and RTSH. Mr. Daviji has been working as an executive director of Transparency International in Albania from 2008 until 2013. His training activities include journalism, communication, public speaking, transparency, and media ethics. Mr. Daviji is known as a public speaker and has delivered keynote speeches to many conferences and universities in Tirana and abroad. Daviji is also very experienced in journalism as a political commentator of the main TV stations in Albania. With 25 years of experience in the media, he also has extensive practice in print, broadcast, and social media. Mr. Daviji is also the contributing editor to the Tirana Times newspaper. Let's welcome Mr. Daviji.
Thank you, Peter. You told me that I had to talk only for 50 minutes? No, fine. So, I'll be short. That will be a contribution. You mentioned the word fighting for the truth. I guess most of you have seen a movie, a Japanese movie, of Akira Kurosawa, Rashomon Kurosawa. I mean, there are four people recounting the different version of the story of a murder. So you watch the movie and wonder from the beginning till the end who was telling the truth. I was watching last night some main news edition of different outlets here in Tirana. So the topic was Peace Summit. All the news were about political conflict. So all participants there, I mean, the speaker of the Parliament of Northern Macedonia, the winner of the last elections in Kosovo, Ambassador Chris Hill. They were all singled out and seen from the angle of a very narrow political interest of the day. And the question is this the way that the media should work in the future? But before trying to give an answer to that, most of you, as I can see, are not from Albania. So whenever somebody asks me, can you tell me with one word how is the situation of the media in Albania? And the answer with one word is good. But if you ask me with two words, I can say not good. Okay, why is good? Because we have still 25 daily newspapers, 56 TV channels, 67 radio channels, 200 cable operators, 650 portals, news-based. Only in Tirana, 12 channels based on the 24-hour news cycle. So in terms of quantity, we are good. In terms of quality, not good. We are good because if you watch the screens all over the hotel or all over the city, you will see a lot of information. But if you understand the local language, you will not find news. You find information but not news. That's not good. 1.8 million Albanians have a Facebook account. And considering that the total population is 2.7, so that's a miracle. And that's good. But when we go a little bit deeper, it's most about the bubble and echo chambers rather than a genuine discussion of what's going on or what should we debate. It's good because we have a very good code of ethics, the best. Not good because it's just on paper, not practiced. It is good because still we think that the media is fourth power. Yeah, but in reality it's more part of the power game rather than fourth power. I've been working journalist even in the previous century. The best days of journalism are in the early 90s. So if we do not analyze the changes that the media has undergone, well, we risk to be even more confused with the future. I was trying to search in the room if anybody here is without a mobile phone.
No.
Yeah, that is news. That is news nowadays. I mean, a person has none. Well, that's some term for investigative stories. I mean, why? Now we have the experience of two screens. Some of you were watching on the PowerPoint presentation, and some of you were watching simultaneously on the mobile phone. I don't know if this is good or bad, but that's the reality. Some things which were unthinkable 10, 15 years ago now are unavoidable. I mean, who ever thought that we could not separate the message from messenger? And I'm talking about message and messenger now are one. It's not the journalists, but there are political leaders. So we have now the situation where the political leaders do what they want, but also report for themselves. No need for journalists to raise questions, no need for journalists to do fact-checking, they are just live. They have press conferences in Facebook, in Twitter. So no need for journalists because they are becoming journalists themselves. Social media. I mean, I don't want to go into much details, but when we talk about the social media, now we see that more than content, it's far more important, which is not important, the clicks. How many clicks, how many likes, how many comments, how many shares. Fake news, yeah, it's not something new, but the speed now, it's like, you know, you are watching Formula 1. And the audience has changed the behavior. So it's not anymore passive, it's not anymore that we decide what they should consume, but the audience is changing. We've seen also the change in the main role. In the early 90s, we talked about the watchdog role of the media. Now we see that the media has gone from watchdog role to the hunting dog role, or even worse, to the domesticated dog or lapdog. And that's something we should look at. I have, I think, 1 minute left, and I'll talk about the challenge in the 21st century within a minute.
This is the biggest challenge.
This is the biggest challenge. Okay. The biggest challenge is to make a paradigm shift from problem conflict oriented to solution oriented. And I think the audience would applaud that and would seek for that. We should seek not just for more news, but content and context. And a little bit of paradigm shift. We talk about nowadays about the populism. So with two words, populism, it's, you know, people revolting against the elite. The media should do more to distance themselves from the elite in order to serve the people. And going from reporting leaders and institutions to reporting issues and people. We need more fact-checking. I mean, for the food that we consume here, there are laws, there are institutions, there are law enforcement agencies which punish if they give us, you know, not good food for our body. So it's time to think about the quality of spiritual food that we get through the media. And to come to the conclusion, journalists and people are now more than ever connected online, but they are more than ever disconnected offline. So, at the end, will journalism serve the power, or will journalism serve the truth? And to paraphrase an old saying from a sacred book, truth will set everybody free. Thank you very much.
Powerful. Each of the speakers, very powerful. Thank you. I feel so privileged to be here with you. And I'm glad to have Lutfi here in Albania. There's a lot of hope for Albanian media with such a man. Don't you think so?